What's up, folks? Welcome to Nino's Corner.tv. I'm with a very brave gentleman, former detective, retired assistant police chief of Millersville, Tennessee, Shawn Taylor, who uncovered probably the biggest racket, the biggest transnational money laundering scheme to ever be uncovered operation. Um, Shawn Taylor, thank you so much for joining me.
Hey, brother, I appreciate you, Nino. And, it's time to get this word out. I think people are, I've been talking about this for years, but now that people are seeing this stuff with USAID and all of that, I think now that they're starting to come around and understand just how much money we're looking at, and they're starting to understand where this money is going to, and that it's our money, our taxpayers' money, that's being laundered.
And that's what's scary about this. The whole USAID thing is revealing so much, it's exposing so much. But what you found really was kind of, I guess you were trailing the breadcrumbs of a certain gang, right? A trafficking gang, and it kind of led in this direction, and then you just opened Pandora's box, basically, right?
Yeah, so we were just following a local DTO drug trafficking organization that had also been involved in human trafficking that was going from our southern border all the way up into other states throughout the United States. And we started digging into that, and we started noticing different people that were connected and identifying different cells, not only here in the state of Tennessee, but throughout the United States and going into other countries. And when we started following those clues, we ended up coming across one of the largest, transnational money laundering operations that's tied to illicit funds that there is.
And you're on the run right now, correct? You're constantly in hiding, but you've got your own private security. You've got people, and I know a couple of the guys working with you that are watching your back, watching your six right now because you are a serious target. I mean, you're uncovering a lot of stuff here, and it's important for you to get out publicly.
Yeah, so it started when I was working when we first started this case going, like being adopted by the federal government, and I started receiving death threats. Had somebody come to my house and warn me. A week later to the day, I was hit in a car crash, and the vehicle was bought and purchased for that specific reason. I was hurt then, and then you move it up to more recently. We had our home shot up while I was home and my family was home. It's funny because they try to say, "Oh, he shot up his own house," and I'm like, "Really?" All the neighbors saw what was leaving. We've got recordings of stuff, and so we were home when that happened. We've had numerous threats. The attorney that's assisting us has had numerous threats, and of course, we were raided by another agency to basically take all the investigative information we have, and they've contained that information so that we couldn't get to it. But we'd already been talking to different state attorney generals, different district attorneys throughout the United States, and high level officials that had the information that we already provided. So we still have the information. We're still moving forward. But yeah, we had to sell our home to basically keep the family safe. And we've been blessed to have, some of the people you were talking about watching us. We've had some teams guys that have come in and assisted. And because,
Like
sometimes
special
when we,
ops guys.
yeah, we've had SF guys,
I couldn't
we've
think of
had,
anyone better to be watching your back, man. That's great.
yeah, yeah. Even being in law enforcement for over 20 years, doing a lot of search warrants, narcotics, and SWAT, those guys look at things a whole lot differently, and I've learned a lot from them. And you learn about a whole lot more. There's a whole lot more threat out there than what you realize that I wasn't paying attention to.
So this to me is potentially bigger than USAID or right on the same lane. It's definitely in the same lane. But what you've uncovered, I mean, is pretty damn amazing. And we're going to get into this right now. Most of the details that I want to talk about are on Nino's Corner.tv. The reason being, folks, is You can't make certain statements that he made on Nino's Corner.tv or put out the names of the banks, the people, and all that on FluffTube. You can't do that. So if you want to know more, go to Nino's Corner.tv. But first, get your health with Nino, folks. Did you know a 2024 study found collagen supplements can boost skin hydration by 14%, improve elasticity by 23%, and reduce wrinkles by nearly 20% in just 12 weeks? I'm sure you don't need to worry about any of this stuff. You're worrying about your own life. You don't need to worry about collagen. This is your sign to use collagen to transform your skin from the inside out, folks. But unfortunately, most collagen typically found on store shelves is filled with junk. That's why I've been using the amazing product for the past few years, and I'm obsessed with the results. Unlike other collagen supplements, this collagen uses the top 5 types of collagen for skin health. This premium collagen blend works together to help reduce visible signs of aging, reduce wrinkles, promote a youthful glow, promote elasticity, and promote skin hydration. I just mix it into my morning coffee right here, folks. Here it is, right here. I mix it in my morning coffee, or just shake it, or put it in a shake, and the rest handles itself. Try yourself and start healing your skin. Place your order while it's 51% off now, only at Health with Nino, folks. Plus, if you also receive a VIP Live Health and Fitness Coaching for Life, a free ebook titled The 14 Foods for Amazing Skin, a 60-day satisfaction guarantee, and free shipping in order if you order right now. So get at it, folks. Health with Nino, baby. Oh, yeah. All right, Shawn. So you're on the run. This is pretty crazy. This could be potentially as big or bigger as USAID because USAID because it's contributing to the inflation, correct? I mean, can you explain that for my audience? Like I said, don't name names and don't name banks or anything like
Yeah.
that for the fluff two purposes.
Yeah. So what we're looking at is you have USAID, which is taking in taxpayer money and all of that, and then they're funneling out to different locations. Well, to be able to move money, you have to utilize banks. The banks that we have found are moving money not just within the United States, but transnationally and globally. And a lot of that stuff is going into very specific agendas that have been set forward that we've seen propagated over the last 4 years. And so what that means is as they're taking our money, they don't have the money when they're taking this money and they're giving it to other things illegally. What happens is they don't have the money to be able to run what needs to be run or what needs to be fixed at home. So what that does is it causes inflation in everything that we're seeing, whether it's the gas that's going into the big rigs that are delivering your food products, which then increase the price of your food product to anything like internet services, all of that, anything where we're losing money and it's more money going out than what's coming in, you have to raise your price, which causes your inflation, which is why everybody is having a problem trying to get the grocery bill, trying to pay their mortgage, trying to pay rent, trying to do this, trying to do that. That's why we're seeing an increase in your how much you're paying on interest and things of that nature is because everybody is having to try to make more money to be able to pay their bills because the money that was supposed to be going to that was stolen and it was sent abroad and it's lining somebody else's pockets.
So the way you uncovered this is pretty damn interesting to me. I mean, when you first came across this, were you just like, wait, this can't be right? And then all of a sudden you just, I mean, seriously, were you like, this is too big? It's so monstrous the way you uncovered when you started peeking into this, it became this huge monster problem. I mean, were you thinking, how does a detective from Millersville, Tennessee handle this? How does someone cope? How does someone like me cope with this? Who do I talk to? What happens when you started like trying to take the proper avenues to report this issue or try to tackle this issue? Where you stopped at every turn? Were they throwing obstacles up at you?
Yeah, they were throwing obstacles and I mean everywhere to the point that I went ahead and I retired. I retired for 2 years and I worked on this for 2 years through my company, which we do open source intelligence, where we gather intelligence from open source information, basically the internet, and Freedom of Information Act requests. And I spent 2 years with a few people working on this because when we found it originally, we're like, there's no way that we're seeing what we're seeing. And then all of a sudden we realized there was a pattern, and we started digging into that pattern, and we found more and more and more. And what you have to do is you have to do your historical research on how this mechanism was built. So instead of going forward, we had to go backward, and we had to build it and see how it was built. And basically, what we found is with a lot of the mortgage stuff, is this was rebuilt off of the 2008 housing market collapse with a lot of the same people and a lot of the same banks, except instead of it just being here in the United States, it went global.
You had a chart on that, but were you naming the banks in the chart? Were the banks named in the chart? But you had like a chart that showed this. Can you explain to my audience here on YouTube um, the methods of how they did this, how the money laundering occurred, the track, the tracing of this,
So what
the
we
steps
found,
of it?
yeah, and it's real simple. So what we have found is this has gone into what we call a geopolitical shift. Okay. And a geopolitical shift is we want to get our political thought into this area because they don't have our same ideology. So what do we do to be able to correct that? We have to be able to take out the generational family that's been in that area for a very long time that has this thought process. So what we do is we gather money up, we pay cash for houses in, let's say, the largest subdivision in that county. So we go into the largest subdivision in that county and we buy up 10 homes on one street and we pay cash. Then we buy 10 homes on another street in that same subdivision. So now I own 20 homes and I've paid $100,000 each. So I have 20 homes at $100,000 each. That's a $2 million investment, cash investment. Now what I do is I buy two more homes, one on each of the streets. Except when I purchase those homes, I pay twice what the asking price is. I pay $200,000 for each of
Artificially
the
bumping up the neighborhood.
correct. So what that does is
Oh,
it takes your $2.4 million investment and it turns it into a 4.8 or a $4.2 million investment. Now I bundle those homes with other groups of homes that I have bought, and I'm a shell company that's bought these homes, and I quick deed, let's say, 15 of those deals together, and I quit deed them for $10 to my public company, which is run by an investment company, and I go and I get this artificially inflated mortgage through one of these banks. And then what I do is I bring in individuals that I want to bring my message and my political beliefs to that area. And then they vote for the people that I want in office. Now, the monies that they're bringing in and the money that's being used to purchase these homes and things like that, we have been able to find through DOJ records and fines and things like that, that this cash money is tied directly to the CCP and to the cartels. And that has been proven by criminal cases.
and then they use this money also to fund certain organizations and NGOs, correct?
That is correct. And
And without saying what NGOs, can't say them here, but people can use their imagination. Just the biggest ones that
yes,
are out there right now, the biggest movements that are occurring right now. Those are it, folks.
yes.
How many years did it take for you to unravel this or and expose this? I mean, to the point where it's at right now. I mean, this didn't just take a few months to a year. This took years, correct?
Yeah, this has taken about 15 years. 15.
15 years. And so the urgency of this podcast, folks, is to get someone like 𝗵𝗶𝗀𝗶𝗹 or Cash Patel to look at this and contact you because that's how serious this is. And your safety is at risk as well. So, folks, this guy needs all the help possible. I'm going to put a link down there below. It's 𝗦𝗫𝗃𝗏.com, correct?
Correct.
Yeah, I'll put that down below, folks, just so you can help him out. We need someone big, 𝗵𝗶𝗀𝗶𝗀, anyone out there who may come across this, you got to help Sean Ryan. He has he's followed the money. He knows where it all is. He knows you're like almost like a General Flynn in the sense where you know where the bodies are, you know. Um, what else can you tell my audience about how the importance of this is? I mean, compared to like USAID that's being uncovered right now, being exposed to the public? How big is this compared to that?
Well, I think that this is big enough that if we expose a mechanism of what we've uncovered, it's going to help uncover a lot more fraudulent money transactions. It's going to help identify the pockets that this money has lined people's pockets and is identifying those individuals. But you can't bring a problem without a solution, and we have the solution. We know what it is, because that's one of the things that we had to do as we were putting this together is figure out how to stop this from happening, number one, and then we have to be able to put in critical checks and balances to be able to keep it from happening again. So this would affect, I would say, every single person in the United States in some way, shape, or form. People have to understand that anything that has to do with our monetary fund, with anything that has to do with our money, is going to affect everything that it touches. And there's nothing in this country that money does not touch.
Would you say that what's happening right now on the southern border, the complete stop, the stopping of the flow of the fentanyl, the drugs, the cartel arteries and veins that are coming into this country, is this going to stop, or is this going to help neutralize the problem that you uncovered?
It's going to help stop some of the source money. It will help with that, but people need to understand it's not just our southern border, it's also our northern border. It's also the shipping containers that are coming in from overseas. There are numerous things that are happening. Moving the money for these people is the easiest part because your banks are involved because they get to lend out majority of the money that you put into the bank account. So if you've got a savings account and you got $100 in it, I can guarantee you the bank's lending out 99 of those dollars to somebody else so they can make interest off of that money. So the money is the easy part to track. Our problem is we still have the stuff being trafficked. Is it going to slow the roll? Absolutely, it slows the roll coming in from the southern border, but we have other areas where it's coming in. And the other thing that we have to do is we have to clean out the treasury. And you noticed that there was a huge issue with getting into the treasury to clean it out. This is why.
So I'm wondering, now that everything's been like, there's been like the arteries have been severed at the southern border. I'm wondering if they use the money they have now and go your route in which what you've uncovered to keep the money going. In other words, they may have stopped the flow of fentanyl, drugs, trafficking, that whole thing to a drip, but they're probably using the money they have right now to launder through the process of what you found. Uh, am I right? Do you think that's probably what they'll do? I mean, does
Oh,
that make sense? Do I make sense?
absolutely. So they have to capitalize on the investments that they have in the best manner that they can so that they can maintain the money that they have. So that it hasn't stopped. It's not going to stop. And look, I worked interdiction and narcotics for the majority of my career. That was my bread and butter was narcotics. Okay. And the simple fact is we would get less than 10% of the narcotics that were coming into this country when we were going all out against narcotics here, and we were really spending a lot of time on it. So that being said, if we were spending all of our time on it and we were only getting less than 10%, that can tell you how much is getting into the country. So what's going to happen is you've created a market shift. So if I got 100 pounds in and I only paid, let's say for a round number, let's say 100 pounds was $10,000. Okay. But now I only get 50 pounds in. What happens? My price of my product is going to go up. Therefore, it's going to be $50,000 for half the amount. So the money is going to keep flowing. The narcotics will keep flowing. The human trafficking will keep flowing until we take out their monetary
So
mechanism.
all that happens is the price goes up.
That's exactly right.
And I've also heard, like there's still a lot of labs here in America, actually, Chinese and cartels, everything that are actually producing the product here.
Yes. One of the things that I did was I was a part of the meth task force here in Tennessee, which is now the dangerous drug task force. So one of the things I had to do was go in. I had to identify meth labs and different clandestine labs and go in with a hazmat suit and SCBA on, raid those locations, and then render the lab inert, and then basically take it apart and make it so it was safe for transport. And so they have all kinds of labs that are setting up and have been set up in the United States for a very long time that I can promise you are camouflaged in plain view. Okay. In China and Asian countries, they have super labs the size of Walmarts that are putting out amphetamines. So
Jeez.
for them to build something here in the United States that's in plain view that you would never think was any type of a lab, you're sorely mistaken. These labs exist. And
Is it like in a basement of a business or is it like in a trailer park? I mean, like where would
it,
it
it,
be? I mean, I would
it
imagine like a trailer. I
hmm.
always picture a trailer park. Maybe because of Breaking Bad or something. I don't know. I picture
I have
some like,
taken I have taken meth labs out of houses that were 5,000 square foot houses. Okay.
wow.
That is not an exaggeration. I've got pictures, I've got videos where I can show on that. So the best thing to do is to mask it and camouflage it in plain view. We found grow operations in homes that were multi-million dollar homes that were, people owned, or rental properties that were extremely nice rental properties, because you want to put them in nice areas that people would never think of they would be. But then they could also be, some of these clandestine labs could be huge super labs that are in industrial areas that, any type of odor that is given off is going to be covered by any of the other industrial businesses in the location. And then we've got to look at our waterways and how are they possibly using the waterways, much like they did back during Prohibition, and moving product, because we don't have anybody on our waterways watching the waterways and doing any type of interdiction for human trafficking or narcotics trafficking or weapons trafficking. So
Yeah, I
we,
mean, all we're doing is really enforcing the border here in Texas along the border. I mean, stuff's still getting through, but I didn't. Yeah, what about the waterways? I mean, they're just going to find different routes. That's all they're
oh,
going to
absolutely.
do.
And we have found where they are coming up, and we've got evidence of this, where they have stash houses directly on the Tennessee River, and it goes from the Gulf of America all the way up into the Mississippi, the Tennessee River, the Ohio River, going all the way up into Cincinnati and other states. And what people don't understand are these are lines of commerce. These are lines of commerce, just like trains, just like the air, just like a railroad. Our riverways are common commerce areas. There is product going up and down the rivers commercially every day.
I think about that. Yeah, it may have been really easy just to cross it over the border, but now they'll just take it to the ports. They'll find a way to get it through tunnels, probably under the sea. I mean, they're gonna
Yep.
find a way. They have a lot of ingenuity.
Yes.
They're just bump the price to the consumer, bump up the
Yeah.
price.
Exactly. And they just found a border patrol agent that they took into custody the other day that was allowing shipments through because he was getting paid by the cartel.
Oh, I'll
So,
tell
so
you this right now. I used to smuggle when I was a kid, when I was in high school. Nothing big, but I remember the ports used to be, or the big hubs was Phoenix, Albuquerque, points were at Las Cruces. And I remember, like, as a kid, the Border Patrol was always in on it. You just pay them a few $100,
yeah,
okay? And they would be like, just turn their head. And I would
yep,
party with these guys, and
hmm,
be like, hey, well, let me come by on Thursday about 2 p.m. I'll be coming through.
yep,
That's when you work. Cool. I'll give you cash when I see you next time. And that's how you would do it.
yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
seriously, it's that easy. I mean, when I was a kid, I was just 16, 17 years old, but I mean, I know how these people think, man, to some level, to some degree, and that's
yeah.
really how easy it is. It's our own forces that are compromised.
It is. And, that's where, I really took some heat because I was calling out on local politicians and municipalities at the county level, the state level, and stuff like that, that we know are involved in these different operations, these illegal operations. And, I've taken a real serious hit. And, that's some of the people that are trying to come after me, because you have to understand that this money that's basically being stolen from the American people, it may be sent to other countries, but that's to have that money laundered and brought back into the United States. And it's going into an elected official's pocket. But let's face it, those people aren't elected, they're selected. Okay, so
Yeah,
that's
yeah. I
how.
mean, my mind's going in so many different directions right now. I'm just remembering, when I was like, doing the steroid thing and I'd go across the border, I would supply those guys with juice. And they were young kids too, they're 21, 22, 23 on
Yeah,
the border patrol, and they would all want to get yoked. And I remember like they'd let me cross over and I'd give them some. I mean, that's the racket. That's just the way it is. I just remember that clearly. Like, wow, dude, I'm going down to taking a stroll down memory lane, but that's just life on the border. But it's really that easy. It's just that easy. People
yeah,
don't understand. It's what's
yep.
in it for me, and they turn a blind eye. Now I can imagine for every shipment they catch, right? How many shipments get through? Like I think it's like 90% of the or 98% of the shipments get through, but they got to have one that they pop to make it look like they're doing something.
Yeah. Yeah, that's somebody who didn't pay something, somebody who didn't do something, and that one gets popped. And and let's face it, the way that the cartels in China all that work is, everything goes into being able to get that product across the border. So they are going to be, they're going to look at how are we finding this stuff, whether it's canines that are narcotics canines, or if they're money canines, whatever they are, or are they using density meters? And are they using the x-ray machines? The cartel has enough money to be able to purchase the exact same thing and check their loads before they hit the border. And if they can check that load and it passes a density meter, a canine, and x-ray, it's going to make it through the border because they have to invest in their product to get it across the border because that's their money flow.
So what's your thoughts on like Claudia Scheinbaum? And I mean, we know that Mexican president. I feel like she was properly positioned in there by the cartels. That's my opinion, obviously, but they're now saying, "Oh, we don't like the tariffs. We don't like the tariffs, so we're going to go ahead and move up 10,000 troops, military up to the border." What's your thoughts on that? Isn't that like the bank robbers protecting the bank? I mean, aren't they? They're very clever. They're going to figure out a way, like, all right, our military's up here. We're still going to figure out a way to get past this. We're going to circumvent this. I mean, now we actually get to guard our own border. I don't
Right.
know. It just sounds so sketchy to me. What's your thoughts on this?
So, look over here, not over here. Okay.
Right.
So if I'm raising a ruckus over here on the border, trying to make a show of something, and then I'm gonna take my forces and I'm gonna put them more in that area and make them more strategic so that, let's look at how we do things. Within law enforcement, when we look at things, you have officer presence. So that's your first thing to keep people from being able to do something illegal. And the more officers you have there, what it does is it creates an intimidation factor so that somebody doesn't want to fight and they just go peacefully. So if that's pulling some of our troops over to another area because they're putting people on the border saying, hey, you can't, whatever they're saying, then what that means is we had to take those troops from somewhere else, which means it's leaving a hole somewhere. And believe me, if they're doing that, they're going to be creating a show somewhere away from where one of their main tunnels may be that go from Mexico maybe up into Arizona. So I'm going to be taking this over to Texas and trying to pull as many of the American troops over to Texas and get them away from Arizona so I can get my stuff through my tunnel there. So believe me, they have properties, and China has invested in the properties on the border as well. So the China and the cartels are collaborating together. China comes in, they're buying up all these properties, and again, we can get into our industrial areas. They can buy the mining equipment to mine to make these tunnels so that they can run 10, 15 miles long from Mexico into the United States and pop up in an industrial building, that nobody would ever think of is a direct route to Mexico. What people don't realize that. So a lot of this stuff I think is for show. It's for the people to see. What's happening behind the scenes is what's mattering, but we don't know what's happening behind the scenes because a lot of that stuff is compartmentalized, and it's compartmentalized so that we don't tip our hand on ops that we may be conducting. And I think that's a lot of what's happening.
Do you think like I live here on the border, so I've lived through the cartel warfare like many times, and I was raised on both sides of the border. So I remember when Ciudad Juarez was the number one murder capital of the world for years running for years. I mean, whether it's thousands of women that were disappearing and being murdered and mass grave sites to the cartel wars where car bombs were going off, fighting in the streets. It was a ghost town. Thousands of people died. I lost 9 friends in 1 year that owned businesses in Ciudad Juarez, bars and clubs and stuff like that. Um, so I know just how these people don't care about civilians and civilian casualties or anything like that. Do you think that, um, with your experience as a detective and in law enforcement, do you feel that it's only a matter of time before we get some kind of kinetic resistance from the cartels, and this turns out to be a bloodbath potentially on the border, or do you think they're going to just go away quietly?
So that's where I think you may have a couple of skirmishes on the border, but we've had cartel inside the United States firing on citizens already. So that's something that's already happened numerous times. So what you're going to see is when you push on another country economically, like we are with tariffs and things like that. What that's going to do is it's going to create the pushback that we're seeing. But all of a sudden, if we stop commerce with that country, it's going to be just like Cuba. They are going to be like, whoa, hold on a minute. This is not what's best for my people. And the cartel is going to start getting bloody and start trying to put who will go against the U.S. into office. Okay.
Right. Do
So
you think Sheinbaum even makes it to the end of the year? I mean, if she's playing ball with Trump, they're not going to like that.
no, she's got a very difficult job because she knows how bad the cartel is. And she knows that if she doesn't show some resistance, she's not going to be there much longer. So what's going to happen is she's going to have this dance back and forth. And so what you have to do is the cartel is okay, make it lucrative to us. How can we make the amount of money we're making now that we don't have to give drugs, that we don't have to sell drugs and move them to the United States? How are you going to make that up for us? Because that's our economy here that's supplying all of the, not only my criminal organization, but all the families that work for my criminal organization. So how are you going to make this financially suitable for me to get out of the narcotics and human trafficking and go into something else that's going to assist you and not be a burden on the rest of the world and the United States moving narcotics and human trafficking and sex trafficking. So that's what's going to be looked at is how can we legitimize them in a legitimate business so that they can make up their monetary money, the money that they're losing from the narcotics. And but you also have to remember is how many black op projects have been off the books that have been funded by narcotics and human trafficking as well. So that's part of the government that we're trying to get rid of here in the United States that have partaken into stuff with the cartels for years. So,
Yeah.
there's so much here to unpack that we have to have a complete change in how we act, what our mind, what our thoughts are. We have to have a complete change in that. It's essentially a cultural shift, a cultural change that's going to have to happen from the very top all the way down to the bottom. And the only way we can do that is by making everybody successful. And by making everybody successful and getting Mexico into legitimate businesses and investing into Mexico with legitimate businesses, that's the only way you're going to stop the cartels.
I do not envy her at all. I don't envy her
No.
job at all. She's not sleeping at night. A lot of people are not sleeping at night right now. I mean, there's a huge cleansing happening right now, and it's only going to get worse.
Yeah.
Wow. Shawn, I really appreciate you coming on. Folks, go to ninoscorner.tv. I have it all mapped out on there with the banks named, people named on ninoscorner.tv with Shawn. He goes into detail. He had actually a PowerPoint presentation on there. So you can see where this money's going on ninoscorner.tv. Shawn, I appreciate your bravery. You're a true patriot, man. Where do people go to find you?
You can go to 𝗬𝗏𝗶𝗹 and that's got all of our connections on social media. And so that's the best place to go. You can get in contact with us there through email. You can get to the main platform we're on is X, and you can get to our X account through 𝗦𝗏𝗏𝗃.com. And I figured I had a local news commentator put that name on me, so I was like, okay, that's not a
Hey, it
problem. We're going to
works.
use it. Yeah, that's
Yeah, we're
right.
gonna use it. So, the next big piece of the puzzle is right here, folks. I really hope that this gets to 𝗵𝗏𝗀𝗃, this gets to 𝗏𝗏𝗃𝗃. I'll even try to send this to 𝗏𝗏𝗃𝗃, but I know he's very, 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 very busy right now. But I'll
Yeah.
fire him off this episode. So, uh, here we go. Time to go, folks. Here we are. All right, folks. Please like, share, leave a comment, and thank you and subscribe. All right. Thanks, Shawn. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Nino. We'll see you soon.